Statements by members. The Honourable Member for Bécancour, Nicolet, Sorel. Mr. Speaker, allow me to say that it's a great honour for me to call you Mr. Speaker here in this chamber today. It's a title that suits you perfectly. I've seen many faces go through this place, but it's always been a pleasure to recognize yours over the 21 years that you dedicated to the citizens of Ottawa-Vanier. They were able to count on you when the survival of the Montfort Hospital was threatened, and you were still there a decade later when it was expanded rather than closed. They were able to count on you to defend the rights of francophones, both at home and throughout Canada. And here you are here again today at the heart of the battle to make Ottawa officially bilingual. On behalf of the members of the Bloc Québécois, I salute your indefatigable commitment to your constituents, to francophones everywhere, and to the noble democratic values that this House should never lose sight of. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian industry is paramount to our Canadian steel industry is paramount to our ability to grow the economy. It directly employs over 20,000 Canadians, and a further 100,000 Canadians have jobs indirectly because of steel. The steel industry supplies essential materials to a variety of important sectors, including the automotive, manufacturing, mining, construction, and energy sectors, and it encourages innovation. That said, Mr. Speaker, Canada's steel industry faces a number of challenges. In my riding, SR Steel, Algoma, and Tenaris Algoma Tubes are in crisis. They have seen substantial layoffs over the past few years, and if the situation does not improve, this could continue. Mr. Speaker, that is why I'm working with this government, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development, and many others to elevate the conversation on steel. This government will not leave the Canadian steel industry behind. Mr. Speaker, it's an extreme honor to raise this important issue before you on this day. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Flamborough, Glanbrook.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Flamborough Chamber of Commerce announced the winners of their 2016 Outstanding Business Achievement Awards. These top businesses will be recognized April 1st, and I can tell you they're not fooling. The Flamborough Chamber is a very active organization in our community and is truly a model for supporting the small and medium-sized enterprises that are the backbone of the Canadian economy. While every winner is outstanding in their own right, there will be two special awards given out this year that I would like to highlight. First, the Lifetime Achievement Award will go to Jim Wilkinson of Wilkinson Heavy Precast. Jim is a past president of Flamborough Chamber, and his business has been an innovative local manufacturer for over 60 years. Second, the Town of Flamborough Award goes to Pat McNally for 40 years of service with the Rotary Club of Waterdown. But what's truly amazing is that Pat is 101 years old, an incredible lifetime community of service record. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the members of this House, I extend thanks and congratulations to the Flamborough Chamber and the thriving businesses within the Flamborough community.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, I want to mark a moment in the history of the City of Lorraine, that is the election last Sunday of a woman mayor for the first time. I congratulate Ms. Lindion. I also note that 2 men and 2 women are currently the mayors of the 4 cities in my riding, which is another first in Thérèse de Blainville. This is an event worthy of mention. This male-female parity during the same week where we are celebrating International Women's Day. This egalitarian representation shows that even though there's still work to be done, there is progress happening naturally without this being surprising to anyone. I'm proud to relate this to the House because in 2016, that is a reality that we want to see happen throughout the country and worldwide. Let us be leaders as you are, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député d'Algoma.
The honourable member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing.
I rise to pay tribute to a remarkable young woman from Hilton Township on St. Joe's Island, Mackenzie Hume, who was shortlisted for Samara's Everyday Political Citizen Contest. Mackenzie is proof that age doesn't matter, and this 16-year-old Central Algoma secondary school student has earned every one of her accolades with a string of impressive accomplishments. In the 7th grade, at the age of 12, Mackenzie spent 3 weeks at Queen's Park in the Ontario Legislative Page Program. She followed that up by participating in the inaugural year for Ontario's Model Parliament and will be joining us here at Parliament next year as a participant in the Forum for Young Canadians program. Mackenzie is also one of 2 student trustees in the Algoma District School Board. On top of all of this, she still finds the time to volunteer both in her communities and at political events. As her nominator and friend Matthew Manser says, this young lady of just 16 years old is magnificent, an assessment that I concur with wholeheartedly. Congratulations to Mackenzie et félicitations à vous, Monsieur le Président.
And congratulations to you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Mr. Speaker, last Saturday night in beautiful Whistler, British Columbia, 750 people gathered in awe of the opening of the O'Dane Art Museum, an architecturally stunning building by renowned Canadian architects John and Patricia Patkow. The O'Dane Art Museum is the vision, creation, and gift to Canada of Michael O'Dane and Yoshiko Karasawa. Their collection of Pacific Northwest First Nations art is unparalleled and offers an exceptional insight into the creative and culturally sophisticated minds of the Coast Salish, Gitxsan, Haida, Haisla, Heiltsuk, Kwakwaka'wakw, Nishka, Nch'Almeth, Tlingit, and Chim-Cham artists of the past, as well as the genius of today's contemporary artists, both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal. The museum was established for the purpose of bringing the art and life of British Columbia from the earliest times to today for all. Yet another very good reason to visit Whistler. Canadians will be surprised, moved, and you're all invited.
The honourable member for Chilliwack, HoC.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today to celebrate the life of a remarkable British Columbian, Raleigh Fox. For 36 years, Raleigh was the behind-the-scenes believer in the mission his son Terry Fox set out on with his Marathon of Hope to raise money for cancer research. In recent years, he took a more public role with the Terry Fox Foundation, visiting local runs across the country and personally signing over 14,000 thank you letters every year. Millions of people around the world will mourn the loss of a man whose never-ceasing optimism inspired his son to set out on a journey that would bring hope to those facing the darkest chapter of their lives. Raleigh will be remembered by those who knew him best for enriching their lives with laughter and for his courage and grace as he faced his life's last challenge. Terry, Betty, and now Raleigh Fox fought the good fight, finished the race, and kept the faith. Let us vow today to pick up the torch they have carried so well for so long.
The honourable member for Niagara Centre.
Mr. Speaker, throughout Canada's history, Parliament has strategically invested in a pan-Canadian transportation system that united this country and grew our economy. In the 1870s, a railway from coast to coast. In the 1940s, a network of airports. By the 1960s, the St. Lawrence Seaway was moving global cargo abroad, thereby completing multimodal networks throughout our nation. With the tabling of the Transportation Act review, the stage is set for economically strategic, sustainable federal infrastructure investments. This Parliament is now in a position to establish a national transportation strategy to drive the next generation of transportation infrastructure investments that will strengthen our multimodal networks and grow our nation's economy. To quote David Emerson, a recurring theme in the report is the inseparable relationship between Canada's international trade performance and the quality of the transportation and logistics systems across this nation.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the Minister of Natural Resources spoke at the Prospectors and Developers Convention. Mining contributes $57 billion to our GDP, but it's struggling in a long downturn. He acknowledged uncertainty is bad for the business, but the government's transitional regulatory approach creates instability, deters investment, and causes job losses. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister was minutes away naming 2 pandas and didn't stop in to the largest mining meeting in the world. I guess the PM figured pandas don't ask tough questions or need real answers. Tomorrow he's rubbing elbows at the Centre for American Progress that calls Canadian energy dirty business. LNG projects are at risk. There's no deal on softwood lumber. Now, we know making priorities is hard, and maybe they're just not ready yet, but it's a bad pattern. Canadians will start to have some joy when the Liberals give them hope that they have a real plan for the hundreds of thousands of workers whose jobs are on the line in our world-leading natural resources sector.
The Honourable Member for Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, today it's a great honor to take the floor.
Will be held as the names of close to 800 people who have died on city streets is read aloud and projected onto the side of a church that is just literally a heartbeat away from Toronto City Hall. Reviewing the names on the list is a painful and a tragic loss that we all have to recognize. Too many of these names are on other lists that are just as shameful. The list of missing and murdered Indigenous women, the list of residential school survivors, the list of close to 97,000 households in Toronto that are waiting for affordable housing. None of these are lists that any person should be on. Housing can no longer be seen as a problem that needs to be solved. Housing is the solution to so many of the challenges we face in this country. As the names are read aloud tonight in Toronto, let us stand here united as a parliament and as a country to make sure that these lists stop growing. Let us do it by building safe, affordable, and most importantly, supportive housing in Canada.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the Portuguese community in my downtown riding of Davenport. They are the largest ethnic group, representing approximately 30% of my riding.
Alive and well in Davenport. Last month, I had the honour of attending anniversary celebrations of 2 community organizations that exist to celebrate the distinct traditions in the Portuguese provinces of Beras and Alentejo. On February 13, Casa das Beras hosted their 16th anniversary of their club, and on February 20th, Casa de Alentejo celebrated their 30th anniversary. My congratulations and deep gratitude goes out to the leadership of these clubs, particularly Presidents Bernardino Nascimento and Carlos Souza. These 2 ethnic clubs, along with Casa de Madeira, Casa dos Azores, Peniche, and Arsenal de Minho, have done tremendous work in Davenport, celebrating and promoting the cultural and social activities of the Portuguese community. Leur histoire fascinante et leur...
Their efforts ensure the Portuguese traditions are passed down to the next generations. This is one of Canada's greatest success stories.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener South, Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to address the House for the first time. I want to thank my constituents in the new riding of Kitchener South Hespeler for placing the trust in me. Service to my constituency will always be my first priority. I also rise today to recognize the significant contributions of Toyota Motor Manufacturing Canada to my constituency and the region. This year, Toyota will celebrate 30 years in my riding. Toyota employs 8,000 people in Cambridge and nearby Woodstock. Within the next couple of months, Toyota Canada will have produced 7 million vehicles. The multiplier effect in the auto parts industry and local businesses is enormous. Toyota is a responsible corporate citizen, participates in the community, and supports worthy local causes. For my riding of Kitchener South Hespeler, I cannot stress enough the importance of the automobile industry and Toyota in particular. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Haldimand, Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, if the Liberals want to make a fundamental change to our voting system, the process must not be dominated by one political party's interest. A committee comprised of a select number of MPs is not and never will be a substitute for all Canadians having their voices heard. The Liberals have no legitimate case to claim that their House of Commons majority, delivered through a system that they claim is no longer valid, gives them a mandate to change our voting system. As the Member of Parliament for Haldimand and Norfolk, I will continue to stand up against this unilateral stance taken by the Liberal Party to deny Canadians a referendum on how they elect their MPs. Mr. Speaker, the fact is that when you change the basic rules of democracy, everyone has to have a say. Otherwise, it's no longer a democracy.
Here, here. Right on.
The Honourable Member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate and thank before this House the citizens of Châteauguay-Lacolle, notably Jean-François Lavallée, founder of the Refugee Welcoming Committee of Greater Châteauguay, and Annick Sauvé, president of Entraide Mercier, who established an initiative to sponsor a Syrian family, the first in our community. The process begun last fall was effective because the Aldas family, made up of 3 children and another on the way, arrived in Canada February 18th. The refugees recently settled in their own house in Châteauguay. This is the first experience in Greater Châteauguay, but given the reception by the population, it won't be the last. I also wish to underscore the implication of Claudette Lévesque, Catherine Hooper, and Father Clément Lafitte, and all the donors in this great project.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week on March 4th, the community of Powell River and Tliamin First Nation celebrated an elder named Dr. Elsie Paul. A deeply respected elder, members of both Tliamin and Powell River joined in the spirit of reconciliation to recognize the work and commitment Elsie has shown to building a stronger community, both within her nation and in the communities surrounding it. Raised by her grandparents, Elsie had limited interaction with residential school. This allowed her to be raised in her culture, to be fluent in her mother tongue, and to learn from the rich environment around her. Elsie is a beacon of traditional knowledge, feeding the roots of her people and seeing them flourish with her efforts. This leadership only grew across Canada and the world when she published a book on her life called Written as I Remember It. I want to thank Elsie for being who she is, for holding the culture safe to pass on to another generation, and for being the graceful woman that she is.
The Honourable Member for Durham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's good to see you in the chair, my friend. As you know, Mr. Speaker, I've always tried to be as sweet in this House of Commons as you have. But today I'm extra sweet because I'm talking about the Purple Woods Maple Syrup Festival in the Durham region, Mr. Speaker. Starting this Saturday and running through April, the most family-friendly event in our area is running, where you can go on trail rides, horse rides, see the Pioneer Village, and your children can watch sap transformed into maple syrup. I'd like to congratulate the Central Lake Ontario Conservation Authority for this 41st festival, and the fun continues to May 7th in historic Bowmanville for Maple Fest, where we continue to celebrate our local maple syrup industry and farms like Trails End in Bowmanville and Ashton's in Port Perry. So I invite all members of this House, I invite you, Mr. Speaker, and all Canadians to the Purple Woods Maple Syrup Festival, to Maple Fest in the Durham region, and if you come on March 14th, I'll flip you a pancake myself.
The Honourable Member for Hull-Aylmer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In cooperation with my colleague, the member for Halliburton Kawartha Lakes Brock, I rise to challenge all our colleagues in the House of Commons. As we all know, we have a very heavy work schedule here. Being a politician and being in good shape is not always easy. That's why we associated with the Tamarack Ottawa race weekend. So we're asking all members to participate in one of the 6 races that will take place on May 28th and 29th. By participating, you will draw attention to the important issues of health and physical activity. I wish to underscore that this race will be a fundraiser for the Lou Gehrig Association of Canada. I encourage as many MPs as possible to take part. Join us twice a week in order to train. Together, we can make a difference and at the same time support our colleague and friend, the member for Ottawa-Vanier.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, let me start off by saying that you look great up there. Remark that you've achieved in a very short period of time what many speakers dream of, which is a well-behaved chamber. Mr. Speaker, in 2014, I took the ice bucket challenge like many of my colleagues in this House, and I still remember having that big ice bucket dumped on my head when I was health minister, and combined with government funding, that amazing challenge raised $20 million for research funding and $6 million for support programs, but we can do more. So I'm asking the Prime Minister today to join me in asking Canadians from coast to coast to coast to support organizations that are fighting ALS and to find a cure for ALS.
Mr. Speaker, it's a tremendous pleasure to see you there today. I thank my honourable colleague for her question and for her leadership, both as an individual and as a former health minister on this. And I salute you as honourable member for Ottawa-Vanier and Speaker for the dignity and grace that you bring to the House every day as you battle this terrible disease. Like many of us in this House, I was pleased to take part in a number of ice bucket challenges, both as dumpee and dumper, and I was pleased to do my part to help raise money and research and awareness for ALS. Canadians pride themselves on looking out for one another, and I join the Leader of the Opposition in urging everyone to give your time and financial support to organizations that are working so hard to find a cure for this terrible disease.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
L'honorable député d'Outremont.
The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and allow me to tell you on behalf of all of my colleagues how pleased we are to see you in the chair occupying those duties today.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, Last week, the member for Ottawa-Vanier was congratulated for work supported to the Francophone community in Ottawa. The NDP shares your conviction. We must celebrate and protect our official languages across the country. Almost 1 out of every 4 Francophones lives outside Quebec. We need to do more to ensure that all Canadians have access to service in the language of their choice, regardless of where they live. What does the Prime Minister intend to do to continue to follow up on the exceptional contribution made by the Honourable Member for Ottawa-Vanier in order to improve services and support minority language communities in Canada?
Le très honorable
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague for his question and point out that no one in this House has done more to support the Francophones in Ottawa and across Canada as you, as the Honourable Member for Ottawa-Vanier. Since your election in 1995, you have fought a tireless battle for linguistic duality in Canada, national unity, and a fair society for all. We are going to continue to support your incredible work, namely with a new official languages plan that will support both Anglophone and Francophone linguistic minorities across the country. This House, linguistic minorities, and all Canadians, thank you for your service.
J'aimerais maintenant vous remercier tous.
I would like to thank you all, colleagues, for the exceptional privilege that you have given me to serve as the honorary Speaker of the House of Commons today. Thank you.
I would like to thank you all, dear colleagues of this House, for the great privilege you have bestowed upon me to serve as honorary Speaker of the House of Commons today. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you all, dear colleagues of this House, for the great privilege you have bestowed upon me to serve as honorary Speaker of the House of Commons today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, colleagues. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tonight, the Prime Minister is going to be in Washington with his pals at the Center for American Progress. And while energy workers continue to lose their job across the country, they'll be watching the Prime Minister sip champagne. Now, let's be clear, this is the group that is responsible for the President's rejection of the Keystone XL pipeline. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Prime Minister if he'll use his special new relationship and publicly state in Washington that he supports Keystone and ask the President publicly to reverse his decision on Keystone.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, few relationships matter to Canada as much as a good relationship with the United States of America for jobs, for economic growth, for trade purposes, for building the kinds of opportunities for Canadians right across the country that we truly need. For 10 years, those relationships had been strained, and now we're pleased to be able to re-engage on a broad range of important files to be able to build the kinds of opportunities for all Canadians that we know people need. Merci.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, while the Liberals will be celebrating with American organizations that are actually determined to kill Canadian jobs, the Finance Minister back at home keeps racking up the bills. The Prime Minister broke his promise to limit borrowing to a modest $10 billion. But now economists are saying that the Liberals will add $150 billion in debt over the next 4 years, but it'll have virtually no impact on growth. Now, the Prime Minister was left with a surplus. Now that we all know that his borrowing won't create jobs and it won't create growth, why is this government so determined to bury Canadians in debt?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, Canada saw lower growth than it needed to because we had a government that was focused on giving tax benefits to the wealthiest and not helping the middle class succeed, not creating the kinds of investments in infrastructure, in our communities, indeed in Canadians who need help that actually was necessary for our economy. That's why we put forward a plan to invest in the future of our country, to help middle-class Canadians, those working hard to join it. And in 2 weeks, all members in this House, and indeed all Canadians, will be able to see the budget that will make that happen.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in fact, our government left the country with the highest growth in the G7 and the lowest taxes in 50 years. But the Prime Minister needs to understand that Canadians actually didn't sign up or vote for this mountain of debt. Not only did the Prime Minister mislead Canadians on these Liberal spending habits, but he has absolutely no plan to pay it back other than raising taxes. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister realize, like all Canadians, he has to live within his means and he has to pay this money back?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians were faced with a choice in the last election between policies that had failed to create the kinds of growth and opportunities that people need right across the country against a vision that was actually proposing to invest in our future, to put money in the pockets of the middle class and those working hard to join, and investing in the kinds of infrastructure that our communities need to create jobs now and to create growth in the medium and long term. That's the kind of budget we're going to put forward in 2 weeks. That's what Canadians have been waiting 10 years to hear.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, after several years of laxism by the former Liberal government, in 2006 our Conservative government signed an agreement on softwood lumber with our U.S. partners. At the time, companies were paying up to 37% of export duties, and billions of Canadian dollars were dormant in the U.S. To the detriment of Canadian companies. Will the Prime Minister commit that during his trip to Washington he will call on President Obama to sign an agreement quickly that will enable the forestry industry to continue to develop and ensure that there are jobs in all regions of the country? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, relations with the U.S. and Canada in recent years were so bad that the former government couldn't even follow up and sign a new agreement on softwood lumber. It's up to us to recommit on the issue, and at the first opportunity I have to sit down with President Obama, I discussed it. We're working on the file, and we hope to have some good news for Canadians in the weeks and months to come. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to point out that the former Minister of International Trade had advanced the file considerably, and we hope that an agreement will be reached quickly. During the election campaign, the Prime Minister talked about light and modest deficits. Now, we left them with a surplus, and the figures are there to show there was an operating amount. And can they tell us what the deficit is? The TD Bank is predicting a very, very high deficit that will be left or generated, racked up over the next 4 years. When will the government be balancing the budget? Mr. Speaker, the former Conservative government inherited a surplus of several $billion, and they spent it before the global recession hit in 2008. We inherited a deficit, a budget in a deficitary position. We committed to Canadians to invest in growth in communities to help the middle class and people who are working hard to join the middle class, and that is exactly what we're going to do. We are going to be bringing forth our measures in the budget of March 22nd. The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Speaker, yesterday I asked the Prime Minister about the recent deal that the government made with millionaire tax cheats. He responded that all Canadians should pay their taxes, quote, in the future. Well, to those currently filling out their tax form, it's a bit of a surprise to learn that this wasn't the case before, and that the government lets multimillionaire tax cheats off the hook with no penalty whatsoever. So I'll ask the Prime Minister again, will he conduct an investigation and put a stop to these sweetheart deals for multimillionaire tax cheats?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government believes in a level playing field where all Canadians pay their fair share of taxes and are treated equally under the system. Our government came to power with a pledge to strengthen efforts to combat international tax evasion and avoidance. The CRA is pursuing this matter before the courts, and it intends to pursue it to the fullest extent possible, because that's what this government and indeed all Canadians expect.
The Honourable Member for Outremont.
They're not pursuing this matter before the courts, and that's the problem. They're letting them off the hook with no fine, no penalty, no interest to pay.
Canadians are fed up with this situation that allows multimillionaires to not pay their taxes and to receive this preferential treatment. And yesterday, the Prime Minister couldn't even say if he was in disagreement with the agreement. A very specific question, therefore, for the Prime Minister. Can he confirm that it is the single and only time that the government has offered such an agreement to millionaires? Yes or no? Or are there other similar agreements? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this government takes tax fairness seriously and wants Canadians to be treated fairly and equally under the tax system. Our government took power with the firm intention to strengthen our efforts to fight evasion and avoidance, tax evasion and avoidance. The issue is before the courts, and the recourse, legal recourse permitted under legislation will be used. That is what Canadians expect of this government and of the CRA. He reads really well, doesn't he now, the Prime Minister, but he doesn't answer the questions. He read the same thing twice, but that's not the question. The question is, are there other agreements, yes or no?
About the government's promise for, quote, affordable, high-quality, flexible, and fully inclusive child care. It's at page 20 of his platform in case he hasn't been able to find it. Instead of giving us another talking point, can the Prime Minister simply tell us this? What is the government's budget for that specifically defined child care plan they boasted about in their platform?
Hear, hear.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in our platform, we put forward an ambitious plan to invest $20 billion over the next 10 years in social infrastructure. In order to do so, we would work with provinces and municipalities to identify their concrete needs and respond to them. We put that forward in total respect of the province's jurisdiction. The issue that my member opposite faces is that he put forward a plan that actually would be cutting $18 billion from the federal budget right now to reach balance at all costs. That's not how you help families. That's not how you help people with the cost of childcare.
The
honourable member for Outremont.
We're really sincere about corporate tax fairness. He'd start by reducing and getting rid of the cuts to corporate taxes that the Conservatives brought in with their complicity because they voted for the Conservative budget. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, never should someone be forced to choose between buying medication, housing, or food. The Liberals promised to immediately increase the GIS by 10%. 5 months later, nothing. And seniors continue to suffer. How many months, specifically, does immediately mean? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are very concerned by the fate of our seniors, and that is why we have put in our platform an increase to 10% to the GIS for the most vulnerable seniors. We have also put in place measures for housing to help seniors through our infrastructure investment. These are all things that we have promised and that we can do and will do because we are going to be investing in communities. The member opposite, unfortunately, would be in cutting $18 billion for Canadians to reach balance at all costs instead of helping people in need.
Honourable member for Haldeman Norfolk.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are borrowing money that they don't have to spend on pet projects that we don't need. Right. They're throwing fiscal responsibility under their spending bonfire. And with $150 billion expected in borrowing, a balanced budget under the Liberals is nothing but a pipe dream. Mr. Speaker, when will the Liberals realize that we have to pay this money back and that borrowed money isn't free?
Here, right on.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the Honourable for her question. Mr. Speaker, we have a fundamentally different approach. We have an approach about growing our economy, Mr. Speaker, and that's what Canadians voted for on the 19th of October, Mr. Speaker, and that's exactly what we're going to be delivering. We're going to invest in innovation, we're going to invest in productivity, we're going to invest in infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, we're going to invest in the middle class for this country.
The honourable member for Haldeman Norfolk.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the previous government went into deficit to fight the biggest financial crisis since the 1930s. And then we balanced the budget without raising taxes. The Liberals are spending money that they don't have to fight a recession that we're not in. They've already slashed tax-free savings accounts, and now they're jacking up payroll taxes. Mr. Speaker, how high will taxes go to pay for risky Liberal deficits?
Right on.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, as the OECD said in the IMF, there's never been a better time to invest in the economy. Canadians know, Mr. Speaker, that when interests are low, that's the time to invest. As we went from coast to coast to coast in this country, the Minister in Finance and I, we listened to Canadians. And what Canadians have been telling us is invest in the economy, invest in the middle class, invest in infrastructure. And you know, Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what we're going to be doing.
The Honourable member for Abbotsford.
Well, Mr. Speaker, another week, another broken promise. In Paris, the Prime Minister promised he would give Canadians a climate change plan within 90 days. Well, last week in Vancouver, the 90 days were up. And what happened? No plan. Just a plan to have a plan. And surprise, surprise, he also threatened to hammer the provinces with a carbon tax grab. As the Prime Minister wines and dines in Washington, and as investors flee Canada, and as Canadians lose thousands of jobs, will he now admit that he's in way over his head?
The Honourable Secretary for Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I think Canadians are incredibly proud of the work that this government has done on climate change. If we look at the progress that has been accomplished in the last 5 months, we have a historic international deal in which Canada played a critical role. We have an arrangement that has been agreed upon by all provinces and territories to develop a pan-Canadian framework. That is real progress. We are going to Washington this week to actually make further progress on a continental basis. My goodness, relative to the last 10 years of inaction under the Conservatives, this is real change.
Honourable member for Abbotsford.
Well, Mr. Speaker, broken promises are not in Canada's best interest. Canadians are losing jobs, Liberal deficits are skyrocketing, balanced budgets are out the window, and now the Prime Minister has picked a fight with the provinces by threatening a harmful carbon tax. And contrary to what the Prime Minister and his Parliamentary Secretary just said, there is no deal, there is no climate change plan. So what happened to the new relationship with the provinces that was promised? And why has the Prime Minister's sunny ways turned into gloomy days for Canada?
Yeah. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that we need to reduce greenhouse gases and to grow our economy in a sustainable way. They also know that reducing emissions will make our economy more competitive, not less competitive. Carbon pricing policies that the honourable member talked about will minimize the cost of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, provide a continuous incentive for technological innovation, and allow us to achieve significant emissions reductions. And I would say the honourable member should listen to some of the folks who used to sit on that side of the House. The current Ontario Conservative leader and former MP on that side of the House stated this week, climate change is a fact, it is a threat, it is man-made, we have to do something about it. And
the honourable member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, Liberal policies make doing business in Canada more expensive. Auto manufacturers are hurting in Ontario because our electricity rates are 30% higher than other jurisdictions. And that is before the new Liberal carbon tax. When will this Liberal government give manufacturers a break rather than break manufacturers?
The Honourable Minister for Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to say today is a very special day. It's an honor and privilege to serve with the member from Ottawa-Vanier. For me, he's a role model. I'm just delighted to be here today with him. With respect to the question asked, we have a plan when it comes to manufacturing. We have a plan that's going to help companies adopt in the 21st digital economy by making sure we have ICT adoption. We're also going to put forward industrial and technological benefits that will assist companies, Mr. Speaker. We have a plan for manufacturing because we know manufacturing is very important to our future progress, growth, and creating jobs.
Bravo.
Honourable member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are missing in action. The Canadian manufacturing jobs are at risk. The low dollar has put Canadian goods on sale, but the Liberals refuse to explain how they'll encourage private sector investment. Yesterday, they even blocked the Industry Committee from asking Bombardier about a $1 billion bailout. What are the Liberals hiding? Is the reason the Liberals won't share their plan with Canadians because they don't have a plan to share?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, we're a very open and transparent government. We've been very clear with Canadians. When it comes to committees, they have their own unique dynamic and they set their own agenda. But with respect to Bombardier, Mr. Speaker, we're engaged with them. They came forward with a proposal on December the 11th of up to $1 billion. They asked for an investment. We're looking at the business case. We're doing our due diligence. We're going to make sure we do our homework. We're going to make sure that we provide a thoughtful response in the public interest, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to understand something. Now, perhaps the mission in Iraq isn't a combat mission, but our soldiers are going to end up on the front lines and they'll have license to take the first shot. Isn't that a combat mission? Can the Minister of Defence explain why the government is so obstinate about denying the evidence, and why is he refusing to tell Canadians and our soldiers that this is, in fact, a combat mission?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Speaker, it is true that our soldiers will be at greater risk, as has said by the Chief of the Defence Staff. But I can't do better than quote him at the committee yesterday, where he said, in an engagement like this, specifically allow Canadian forces to defend themselves, anticipate their defence so that they can engage a hostile act or a hostile act intent before it materializes. So our soldiers are not engaged in combat. They are allowed to defend themselves, and the rules of engagement are clear for all concerned. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Esquimalt, Saanich-Sooke.
The National Defence Military Foreign Service instructions define a combat mission as one, quote,
where the use or threatened use of force, including lethal force, is used to accomplish the mission. Yesterday, Canada's Chief of Defence Staff admitted that in the Liberals' new expanded mission in Iraq, Canadian troops will not only be authorized to use lethal force, but also to shoot first. Mr. Speaker, to everyone except this government, that sounds exactly like the definition of combat. Why is the Liberal government continuing to try to disguise the nature of this mission and its risks? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
There's no disguise, Mr. Speaker. This is, in fact, a non-combat mission, as I just outlined with what the Chief of Defence Staff just said. So the honourable member can argue with the Chief of Defence Staff, but he has, in fact, outlined this as a non-combat mission. We are there to train, to assist, to advise, and to produce intelligence. So the honourable member may wish to argue with the CDS, and I welcome his opportunity to do that. But, Mr. Speaker, this is a non-combat mission as defined by the Chief of Defence Staff.
The honourable member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, Nadia Savchenko, a Ukrainian Air Force pilot and member of the Ukrainian Parliament, has been held illegally in a Russian prison for 21 long months. Many thousands of people in Ukraine and around the world are demanding her release as she continues her hunger strike. Yet all the efforts by the international community to advocate for her release have been brushed aside by Moscow. Mr. Speaker, time is running out. How can Canada's call for the release of Ms. Savchenko be taken seriously when all the Liberals want to do is have happy talk with Putin?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Foreign Affairs.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. That could not be more misconstrued. As the Minister explicitly said in his declaration yesterday, the Government of Canada is gravely concerned about the health of Nadia Savchenko, who has been unlawfully detained by Russia. We have repeatedly underlined that her transfer to Russia was illegal. The charges brought against her are politically motivated, and her treatment during her detention is a matter of grave concern. The Government of Canada calls on Russia to immediately release her and return her to her friends, colleagues and family in Ukraine.
Honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, Nadia Savchenko has restarted her hunger strike. Her health is deteriorating, and the Liberals have done next to nothing. The charges against Nadia are clearly trumped up. This illegal show trial demonstrates the Russian regime's utter contempt for international law, due process, and human rights. Rallies are scheduled across Canada this evening, demanding her release. The Liberals are saying that they want to talk to Russia. So, will the Prime Minister pick up the phone, call the Kremlin, and demand that they free Nadia Savchenko immediately?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I say that Canada stands steadfast with Ukraine. We always have, and we always will. And as I stated, and I'm happy to state it again, we have repeatedly underlined that Ms. Savchenko's transfer to Russia was illegal. We know it was politically motivated. Her treatment during her detention is a matter of grave concern, and we call on Russia to immediately release her. Thank you.
Honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, the U.S.-led Air Combat Coalition successfully took out the ISIS's war minister. The Pentagon said that this is a victory on the battlefield and will hurt ISIS's ability to recruit foreign fighters. Clearly, these airstrikes are working, but the Liberals have taken us out of the fight. Just once, can the Defence Minister coherently explain why the Canadian Armed Forces cannot do both airstrikes and training? Just once.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I would like the honourable member to explain what he doesn't get about democracy. We have had an election for a year, the longest election in Canadian history. The decision of the Canadian people was definitive on October the 19th. We then had a debate here for 4 or 5 days, 98 speakers. The vote this week was definitive. So what part of democracy does not the honourable member get? We have debated this and debated this. The people have spoken, and it's unfortunate for the honourable member.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I'll repeat in French to give my colleague another chance at it. Now, CNN is reporting that U.S. airstrikes in Syria have taken out the one considered the ISIS war minister. This Chechen joined the Syrian rebel group, then swore allegiance to ISIS in 2012. He participated in propaganda and recruitment videos for ISIS, and the U.S. State Department offered a $5 million reward to get rid of the individual. Seeing the results achieved by U.S. pilots, thanks to them, does this government still doubt the effectiveness of airstrikes against ISIS? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
In a coalition. The coalition has quite a number of partners. We do some things very well. Advise, assist, and train, we do very well. Intelligence missions, we do very well. We are engaged, as I say, in a coalition, and we are working together to delete this scourge from that particular part of the world. Mr. Speaker, the idea of this coalition is to end this combat, and we are contributing in a significant and major way. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi, Bay James, Nunavik, EU. Mr. Speaker, the Indian residential school tragedy continues to be a terrible burden for too many people. At the St. Anne Residential School in Northern Ontario, a survivor is trying to obtain justice, but lawyers for the Department of Justice have knowingly held back thousands of documents that would have supported his case. That's completely not only unacceptable, it's revolting, Mr. Speaker. Will the Minister of Justice order her staff to stop denying the legitimate requests of this survivor and stop this obstruction? The Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Canada is committed to the successful implementation of the Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement and fulfilling all its obligations under the agreement. The abuse of children is tragic and unacceptable. While I cannot comment about the specific cases under the Independent Assessment Protocol, I can tell you that Canada has complied with Justice Perrell's June 2015 order and provided all the documents as soon as they were complete. In addition, Canada has revised and made available an updated school narrative of person of interest reports for St. Anne's in compliance with the court direction. The update.
Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Mr. Speaker, the independent assessment process was supposed to bring justice to survivors. Instead, government lawyers in the Justice Department had over 1,000 cases thrown out under the administrative split. We now find that Justice Department lawyers suppressed evidence about a serial pedophile at St. Anne's Residential School and then told the hearings that the victims were simply lacking credibility. This is really Canada's spotlight. If the Justice Minister cannot explain why this is happening, I'm asking her, will she do the right thing? Will she stand up in this House and say she will meet the survivors and fix?
The Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
I thank the member for the question, and I too feel that this is a terrible tragedy. I thank the member for the clarification. Pedophilia is a terrible crime, and we need to deal with the ongoing effects of those abuses. It is. I want to tell the honourable member that I am the client. The Justice Minister is my advisor, and we will get to the bottom of this and seek justice.
I encourage the members in the front row at the far end to try to calm down and listen to the question. We all want to hear each side, even if we disagree. The honourable member for Oakville North, Burlington.
Mr. Speaker, when I was a municipal councillor, I was approached by Myrna Forster and was pleased to lead Oakville Council calling on the Bank of Canada to include a prominent Canadian woman on one of our banknotes, which is something we haven't seen in almost 150 years. Thousands of people from across the country signed a petition calling on the government to highlight Canadian women on our money, recognizing the significant role that women have played in shaping our nation. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance outline the government's plan for action on this important issue?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for a question. Yesterday on International Women's Day, events across the country celebrated the social, economic, cultural and political achievements of Canadian women. I am proud to tell this House that the Minister of Finance, in collaboration with the Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Pawlas, has launched consultations on the Bank of Canada website, inviting Canadians to nominate iconic women who they want to see on the new banknote that will be issued in 2018. Don't forget to use the hashtag #BanknoteNotable to share your IDs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, we recognize that much work needs to be done to resolve long-standing Indigenous land claims. However, every government in the past has been unequivocal that private property is not on the table. The recent lawsuit by SSN is looking to declare Aboriginal title over private property. As the Premier of BC said, this has huge implications across Canada. Will the Justice Minister step up to protect Canadian private property rights?
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you again for the question. As the member across knows, this is a matter that is before the court, so I won't speak to particular circumstances with respect to that. But what I will say, in working with the Minister of Indigenous Affairs, ensure that we work collaboratively in terms of mandates and approaches that are being put forward in negotiating and settling the land question in British Columbia. And rest assured that this settlement will be based on a nation-to-nation relationship that is based on recognition. Thank you.
Honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
You know what, Mr. Speaker, the courts are waiting. They have been waiting after this minister has asked for extension after extension in terms of what the position of the government of Canada is going to be. The people of Kamloops are worried, and she's been delaying the response. So please, will she stand up and tell Canadians that she will defend private property rights in Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to say that the way that we are going forward is not to discuss the cases before the courts at this time, but I do want the member to understand, and we need all members of this House to understand, what it means to move forward in a nation-to-nation approach based on recognition of rights, respect, cooperation and partnership is something that every single member of this House needs to understand, and to understand sticking up for the rights of the First Peoples of this country is all of our job.
The honourable member for Niagara Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The BC government has stated that it will vigorously oppose any declaration that creates any uncertainty for private property owners. Now, on January 15th, the Minister of Justice asked for an extension before making a decision. Well, Mr. Speaker, it's been close to 8 weeks and still no response. Now, while the Premier of BC has boldly reassured Canadians, the Justice Minister has left landowners in the dark. Now, will she stand with the Premier of BC to defend property rights, yes or no?
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the member for the question. And as I stated, this matter is before the courts. What I instructed my officials to do was seek an adjournment, and at the request or in my mandate letter from the Prime Minister, we are looking at our litigation strategy, doing a comprehensive review, and in terms of specific cases, that will potentially change our approach. But with respect to particular mandates, I will be working and supporting my colleague, the Minister of Indigenous Affairs, in this regard.
The member for Niagara Falls.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For years, judges were routinely granting 2-for-1 and even 3-for-1 credits for time served before trial. Now, this is why we brought in the Truth in Sentencing Act, to ensure that convicted offenders served the sentences they were given. Now it appears there are judges in Ontario who are disregarding that law. Now, the Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Justice says a law is a law is a law. Well, are they going to do what it takes to enforce the present law, or will criminals continue to get a break?
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, again, I'd like to thank the member for the question. In terms of our approach, we are undertaking a comprehensive review of the criminal justice system. That includes sentencing reform to determine efficiencies and effectiveness in the process, and will ensure that I work with my colleagues, including the Minister of Public Safety, to look at bail reform and other matters with respect to how we can proceed and ensure fairness, equality, compliance with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and ensuring that the accused's rights are respected.
And the member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
The Prime Minister promised that no relationship was more important to him than that with Indigenous peoples. That relationship has not been respected in the case of BC's Site C Dam, where there are 3 ongoing court cases with First Nations. This is a litmus test of the Prime Minister's solemn commitment.
Sure is.
And repeated letters from First Nations have been ignored by the Liberals. Will the government please cease and desist on approval for Site C until proper consultation can occur?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Comment to Secretary for Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the fall of 2014, as members know, the former government approved the project and set out a series of legally binding conditions with which the proponent must comply. BC Hydro must meet the requirements set out in these conditions, and we are verifying that that is in fact the case. The Minister has been involved and engaged in discussions with First Nations people and other Indigenous organizations to try to ensure that we are clearly understanding those concerns, and we will continue to engage in that basis going forward.
The Honourable Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
You have to wonder which First Nations they're engaging with, because the First Nations actually impacted by this megadam can't even get their letters returned from this government. And it seems to me that there are 2 Liberal parties, one that's in campaign, makes sacred promises to First Nations people, and one that governs to break them. Now the question comes for this Liberal government here and now. They are right now in the position of authorizing this megadam in northeastern British Columbia. First Nations have pleaded with this government not to do so, to pause the process and allow that consultation they promised to actually take place. So which Liberal Party are we actually going to see? Yeah.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I said in my previous response, this government continues to engage with First Nations and other Indigenous organizations and peoples to ensure that we are developing a nation-to-nation approach. With respect to the specific matter of Site C, that is before the court. I can't comment on the specifics of that, but there certainly are ongoing discussions that are relevant to the broader First Nations and nation-to-nation relationship.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Veterans Affairs Minister indicated that he was working in cooperation with the Heritage Minister to identify the possibility of moving forward with constructing an Afghan memorial monument. However, we don't know if, yes or no, there will be a national commemorative memorial monument for the Afghan mission specifically. I'm asking the Minister, will the budget include funds for this national monument that was announced by our Conservative government, yes or no? Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Very important for us to honor the men and women who have served this country valiantly in Afghanistan. This government is aware of the motion put forward in 2014, supported by all members of this House, and we are working very hard with the Minister of Heritage to see that put through. But I think it's also important for us to show care, compassion, and respect to those members through veteran services that we're doing right now. And he'll also see that by us reopening the 9 offices that his party closed, as well as rehiring staff that they also let go.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, unlike what the Minister has suggested several times in 4 months, the previous Conservative government did more for veterans than any other Canadian government in the history of Canada. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government cancelled the Community War Memorial Program. This shows clearly that this government is not committed to honouring our veterans. Properly honouring the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces is not militarism, Mr. Speaker, it's just a moral imperative. Now that the Liberals have cancelled the program, will they honour the exploits of the RCAF members who fought ISIL?
The Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a saying in my neighborhood, you lie to your friends, I'll lie to my friends, let's not lie to each other. Here's the true record of what the Conservative government has done over the last 10 years. Closed Veteran Affairs offices. They have cut staff by 800 people. Tell you what, for the last 10 years, it's been really a shame. We are working hard to ensure that we treat our men and women with care, compassion, and respect. I have an aggressive mandate letter from the Prime Minister that's going to see more employment opportunities and support their families, and we plan on following through exactly with that.
Well, I know that the Honourable Minister did not accuse another member of lying. He came a little too close for my liking. I'd encourage members not to use that kind of language. The Honourable Member from Yorkton Melville.
Mr. Speaker, we learned this week that the Liberals are cancelling the Community War Memorial Program. This program, implemented by the Conservatives in 2010, has enabled communities and organizations across Canada to build new or upgrade old cenotaphs and war memorials, honouring the achievements and sacrifices of those who served Canada in times of war and peace and military conflict. The Department of Veterans Affairs acknowledges that there's a continued need for this essential program. So since you're listening, why do the Liberals think cutting this project is a good idea?
Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for her question. In the Veterans Affairs, we understand it's very important for us to commemorate those men and women who have served in our armed forces. We have done that as a country through Vimy Ridge, through World War II, through our Korean peacekeepers, through our role in Bosnia, and we will do so in Afghanistan. That is an important part of what we do in this department. It's important what we do on this side of the House, and we'll continue to show in a meaningful way the respect that our men and women who have served this great country deserve.
Now the member for Fredericton.
Mr. Speaker, if Canada wishes to remain competitive in the global economy, it's important that we recruit and retain high-caliber international students. In my riding of Fredericton, I know that UNB and St. Thomas University are working hard to meet that goal. Can the Minister of Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees please inform this House about the initiatives undertaken by our government to encourage these high-potential students to stay in Canada? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. I would like to thank my colleague from Fredericton for that great question. And international students are among the best candidates to become new Canadians. They speak English or French. They have a good Canadian education. They know the country. And it was not at all intelligent for the previous government to take away the 50% credit that those students received to help them become Canadian. And I'm very happy to say that we will restore that credit.
Now the member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, Iran today test-fired 2 ballistic missiles that the regime says proves its ability to strike Israel. The missiles carried the words, "Israel must be wiped out." Now, former Liberal MP Irwin Cotler is on record saying, "I don't know if the Prime Minister has an appreciation of evil." The Prime Minister said this week he thinks Canada is sending exactly the right signals on Iran. Mr. Speaker, isn't this just another example of the Prime Minister's inability to appreciate evil?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Our engagement with Iran does not mean we agree with their government. And also, to boycott Iran will not help Israel. While we reduced some sanctions on Iran, together with our allies, related to progress in shutting down their nuclear program, we also added sanctions that targeted their ballistic missile program. Again, we did this in complete coordination with our allies. We will continue to apply pressure on Iran to end its unacceptable missile development program, and we will continue to be strong friends with Israel.
The honourable member for Rosemont, La Petite Patrie. Mr. Speaker, the aerospace sector is vital to Quebec's economy. In the Montreal region alone, 1 job out of 100 is linked to that industry. But it seems like the Liberals don't understand that. During the election campaign, they had no plan, no strategy for the sector. Zip, nada. And we're still waiting for news for Bombardier. The sector is fragile, and job losses are growing. When will the government wake up, support Quebec's economy and its workers, and finally present a real action plan for the aerospace sector?
The Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands and supports the aerospace sector. It's a sector that employs 180,000 people, not only in Montreal or Quebec, but across Canada, Mr. Speaker. It's a sector that contributes $29 billion to our GDP, and that is why we take very seriously the engagement with Bombardier. On December the 11th, they approached the federal government officially in writing to ask for up to $1 billion. We are doing our due diligence. We're looking at the business case. We understand the importance of not only Bombardier, but this sector, and we'll make sure any decision that we make will be in the best interest of Canadians and Quebecers.
The honourable member for Sydney, Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, the Port of Sydney has long been an essential asset to the economy of Cape Breton. Studies have shown that the construction of a second marine berth in the harbour will greatly enhance port traffic, especially in the cruise ship sector. So my question is to the Minister of Infrastructure. Does the Minister see this project of a second berth for the Port of Sydney as a type of project worthy of consideration for infrastructure?
Minister of Infrastructure.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the member for Sydney, Victoria for his continued hard work regarding this project. We know there are significant benefits to infrastructure investment. That is why, Mr. Speaker, our government has committed to add $60 billion of new money into infrastructure over the next 10 years. We understand that well-planned infrastructure investments in the regions like Cape Breton generate economic growth, create jobs, and leave a lasting legacy for Canadians. I have met with my counterparts in Nova Scotia, and we will continue to work together on our shared infrastructure priorities.
Yes.
The honourable member for Beauce. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liberals said, quote, "We are committed to raising the bar on openness and transparency in government." That was during the election campaign. But yesterday, Mr. Speaker, the Liberal members of the Industry Committee unanimously voted to block our motion to invite Bombardier to appear before the committee, the Industry Committee. And the committee members wanted to know why Bombardier needs $1.2 billion in aid. So my question today is to the chair of the Industry Committee. Why is he preventing Bombardier from appearing before parliamentarians?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for the question. As the member knows, that committees are independent. But the point that he raised is a very important one.
Order, we've been doing so well. It's been a very good day. I can't hear the answer. Let's settle down and listen to the answer from the Minister of Economic Development.
So the point that the member raises is a very important one. He understands and appreciates that our government is open and transparent. So I'm glad to hear that the member understands that. The member also understands that he has an opportunity in committee to talk about these issues. One thing I can assure the member, that we will continue to engage with the company because we understand the importance of the sector, we understand the importance of creating jobs. We have a plan not only for the company, we have a plan not only for the sector, we have a plan for all Canadians when it comes to growing the economy, and that will be demonstrated on a budget on March 22nd.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Transportation, and it pertains to a critical threat to the survival of Via Rail and our coast-to-coast service. The previous Minister of Transportation convened a panel chaired by former Cabinet Minister David Emerson. It's now reported and shockingly recommends that this government kill passenger rail between Toronto and Vancouver. This transcontinental train, the Canadian, is an essential part of Sir John A. Macdonald's national dream. Can the minister confirm that they will protect Via Rail, restore and invest in our Trans-Canada Rail service?
You have a recognition first. Minister of Transport.
I thank the member for her question, Mr. Speaker. It is important that other levels of government and stakeholders have an opportunity to read the CTA review report and share their perspectives on its findings before we address specific recommendations. I have been mandated by the Prime Minister to respond to the review, and I can assure Canadians that this government is committed to developing the best approach to delivering a safe, efficient and reliable passenger rail service in Canada from coast to coast.
Je voudrais signaler.
I would like to draw to the attention of members the presence in the gallery of Donald Arsenault, Minister of Energy Mines, Minister responsible for Efficacité New Brunswick, Minister responsible for official languages for the province of New Brunswick.
I have a point of order from the member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There have been a number of speakers today, and you are, although you're a great speaker, you are sort of subsumed in the halo created by the previous incompetent chair. Mr. Speaker, there have been widespread consultations, indeed the widest consultations that have taken place in this Parliament, and I think on a day like today when we're all coming together, we can all agree on the importance of accepting that a document be tabled, produced by the Department of Finance, the fiscal monitor, showing that we had a surplus of $2.2 billion at the end of 2015.
There would appear, is there unanimous consent? There would appear not to be unanimous consent. L'honorable député de Beauce.
The honourable member for Beauce on a point of order. Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, earlier I asked a question to the chair of the Industry Committee, the Industry, Innovation